In film school, they always say, write what you know. And what do I know? I know South Central Los Angeles. And I said, I'm going to make this movie. It's going to be called Boyz in the Hood.
1 out of every 21 black American males will be murdered in their lifetime. Most will die at the hands of another black male. This was the chilling warning that opened Boyz and the Hood in 1991. It was a prophecy that would tragically claim the film's own cast. For most fans, the story ended when the credits rolled. But the real story of Oscar glory, shocking crimes, and twisted fates was just beginning. A visionary's gamble.
Today, the film world is remembering how the career of John Singleton opened doors for so many African Americans in Hollywood.
The raw power of Boyz in the Hood came from the mind of a young man who refused to let Hollywood tell his story for him. John Singleton was just 23 years old and had recently graduated from the University of Southern California's Film School, where he had already won the school's top writing award 2 years in a row. The script was his own life story. He based the main character, Trey Styles, on his own childhood experience of being sent by his mother to live with his father in South Central Los Angeles. The other characters were based on the friends he grew up with, making the story deeply personal. He wrote the entire script in just 3.5 weeks. He was inspired after seeing Spike Lee's movie, Do the Right Thing, in 1989. He walked out of the theater and knew he had to make his own movie, a West Coast story. He wrote while listening to the rap music of NWA and Eazy-E, the sounds that were the soundtrack to the very streets he was putting on paper. When his script landed at Columbia Pictures, the studio knew it was special. But they were afraid to give a $6 million movie to a 22-year-old who had never directed a film before. They made him an offer. They would give him $100,000 to buy the script and let a more experienced director take over. Singleton remembered a piece of advice his father gave him: to always act like you do not need what is being offered. He looked at the studio executives and told them he would not let somebody from Idaho or Encino direct a movie about living in South Central Los Angeles. His incredible confidence worked. The studio gave him the job and the money to make his movie. The script moved everyone who read it. Stephanie Allen, a young executive at Columbia who fought for the film, called it the greatest script she had ever read and was in tears by the end. Veteran actor Lawrence Fishburne had the same reaction. He wept after reading the final pages because he recognized it as a true story about his community, told by someone who had actually lived it. But getting the movie made was only the first battle. Singleton now had to find the right actors to bring his world to life, a process that was full of secrets and near misses that could have changed everything. The studio had its own ideas. They thought about casting huge stars like Will Smith for the role of Trey, but he was busy with his TV show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They even considered comedy superstar Eddie Murphy for the part of the wise and stern father, Furious Styles. If those actors had been cast, the movie would have been a star vehicle, not the raw, career-making film it became. Instead, Singleton looked for actors who felt real. He wrote the part of the film's tragic heart, Darren Doughboy Baker, for only one person, O'Shea Jackson, the rapper better known as Ice Cube. At the time, Ice Cube had never acted in a movie before. Singleton chased him down, meeting him backstage at the Arsenio Hall show and at rap concerts, telling the musician that he was born to play the part. Ice Cube did not believe him. He thought Singleton would eventually hire a more famous actor, like Todd Bridges from the TV show Different Strokes. His first audition was terrible. He had been on a music tour and had not paid much attention to the script. Singleton was so frustrated he yelled that he wrote the part for him. But after Singleton took him aside and explained how important the character was, Ice Cube came back the next day and delivered a performance that blew everyone away. For the role of the father, Furious Styles, Singleton turned to Lawrence Fishburne, an actor he had a connection with that went back years. In 1986, a teenage Singleton was working as a security guard on the set of the kids' TV show Pee-wee's Playhouse. Fishburne was also on the set, and the young Singleton gave him a script to read, planting a seed that would grow into a key role 5 years later. On the set of Boyz and the Hood, Fishburne, who was only 7 years older than the actor playing his son, became a mentor to the young cast. The producer called him a Yoda figure. He gave advice to a nervous Ice Cube who was worried he would not be able to cry for the film's devastating final scene. He also helped actress Nia Long, who played Trey's girlfriend Brandy. She was struggling with a scene where she had to be hysterical, and Fishburne pulled her aside and whispered to her to give it all she had got, helping her unlock a powerful performance. Fishburne even acted as a casting consultant, suggesting that Singleton hire Angela Bassett and Tyra Farrell for their roles. The other lead roles were cast just as fast. Singleton auditioned Morris Chestnut and Cuba Gooding Jr. together and saw the chemistry he wanted right away. He simply told his casting director that Gooding would be Trey and Chestnut would be Ricky, and then he went to lunch, leaving her to tell the other waiting actors that the parts were filled. This commitment to realism created a film of unmatched power, but it came with a price. The authenticity that earned the movie a 20-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival also attracted real-world dangers, blurring the line between fiction and a reality that would become fatal for some of the cast. The aftermath.
Ricky!
The movie tells us that Trey went to college and Doughboy was murdered 2 weeks later. For the actors, the film was just the beginning. Their lives over the next 30 years would be as dramatic and tragic as the story they told on screen. For some, the film's prophecy of violence came true in the most horrifying ways imaginable. The film's most disturbing secret belongs to Lloyd Avery II. He delivered one of the film's most gut-wrenching moments as Knucklehead No. 2, the man who shoots and kills the promising football star Ricky Baker in a sunlit alley. Before the movie, Avery was a kid from a good middle-class neighborhood who attended the famous Beverly Hills High School. A fellow actor who worked with him on the film described him as meek and not anything like a street guy. But after the film's release, something inside him changed. Director John Singleton later said that Avery basically became the role he played. Life began to imitate art with chilling accuracy. Avery moved out of his family's home and into a neighborhood known as the Jungle, a territory of the Black Pea Stones gang, which is affiliated with the Bloods. His behavior became violent and unpredictable. He started missing auditions for other movies and getting into fights on other film sets. His own brother, Che Avery, later called it the Tupac syndrome, a feeling that he had something to prove when he really did not. The downward spiral got faster. In 1999, while he was still trying to be an actor, Avery was arrested for a double homicide. He had shot and killed 2 people, Annette Lewis and Percy Branch, in what police said was a dispute over a drug debt. He was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But his story took one last horrific turn inside the walls of Pelican Bay State Prison. While in prison, Avery became a devout, born-again Christian and was even nicknamed Baby Jesus by other inmates. On September 4, 2005, he was strangled to death by his cellmate, Kevin Roby, a man who called himself Satanic Christ. Avery's body was not discovered for 2 days. When guards finally entered the cell, they found his body had been arranged on a pentagram drawn on the floor as part of a gruesome satanic ritual. He was 36 years old. The film's opening warning about young black men dying became a terrifying reality for another cast member as well. Dedrick D. Gobert was memorable as Dookie, the member of Doughboy's crew who was never seen without his signature pacifier. On November 19, 1994, just 3 years after the movie premiered, Gobert was at an illegal drag race in Mira Loma, California. An argument broke out with members of another group. As the fight grew more intense, a man named Sonny Enraka pulled out a gun and started shooting. Gobert was shot and killed. His 19-year-old friend, Ignacio Hernandez, was also killed while trying to shield Gobert from the bullets. Dedrick Gobert was only 22 years old. The shooter was later caught, convicted, and sentenced to death. While tragedy struck some, others saw their lives take wildly different turns, almost as if they were following the paths laid out for their characters in the film. Cuba Gooding Jr. played Trey, the boy who escapes the hood with the help of his father and goes to college. In real life, Gooding also escaped to find incredible success, winning an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for the 1996 movie Jerry Maguire. But his path was not as simple as Trey's. After his Oscar win, he spent what he later called 10 years in the wilderness, starring in a string of unsuccessful and critically panned movies like Snow Dogs and Boat Trip. More recently, his career has been completely overshadowed by serious legal problems. He has faced multiple accusations of misconduct from many women. In 2022, he pleaded guilty to one count of forcibly touching a woman in a New York nightclub, avoiding jail time. He also settled a civil lawsuit just before it was set to go to trial in 2023. Ice Cube's life took the opposite path of his character, Doughboy. Instead of meeting a violent end on the streets, he used the fame from his first movie role to become a Hollywood mogul. He transitioned from a controversial rapper to a successful actor, writer, and producer, creating hit movie franchises like Friday and Barbershop. He even produced the hit film Straight Outta Compton, a movie about his own groundbreaking rap group, NWA. Morris Chestnut played Ricky, the promising football star whose life was cut short just before he could escape to college on a scholarship. Unlike his character, Chestnut has built a long, stable, and successful career in Hollywood. He became a reliable leading man in both movies and television, starring in the popular The Best Man franchise and TV shows like Rosewood and The Resident. He has said that people still call him Ricky on the street almost every day. He does not get mad about it because he remembers how badly he wanted to get a role, any role, when he was starting out. He sees it as a blessing that the character is still so relevant to people after so many years. The film's parental figures, Lawrence Fishburne and Angela Bassett, continued on their paths of excellence, becoming two of Hollywood's most respected actors. Fishburne, who played the wise Father Furious Styles, went on to star in huge hits like The Matrix trilogy and the John Wick series, as well as acclaimed TV shows like Blackish. Angela Bassett, who played Trey's determined mother Reva, became a Hollywood legend. She earned an Academy Award nomination for playing music icon Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do With It, and became a global star as Queen Ramonda in the Black Panther movies, for which she received another Oscar nomination. Nia Long, who played Trey's studious girlfriend Brandy, also built an enduring and successful career. She became a beloved leading lady, especially in black cinema, starring in classics like Love Jones, Friday, and the Best Man franchise. She said the film was her first real movie role and that it gave her the confidence to be herself and still find success in Hollywood. The lives of the cast became a real-life story that was just as powerful as the one on screen. But the drama was not just what happened after the movie. The biggest fights were not between the actors, but between the film and the world itself. The unseen conflicts.
It's a campus that's kind of like a microcosm for America itself. America's becoming, they say more conservative, but it's almost like more fascist.
Singleton's first battle was with Columbia Pictures just to get the right to direct his own movie. Once he started filming, the studio still had demands. They wanted him to add a physical fight scene between the half-brothers Ricky and Doughboy right before the film's climax, which Singleton agreed to do to raise the tension. But they also wanted a scene at the end where Trey clearly tells his father that he did not get revenge for Ricky's murder. Singleton flatly refused. He wanted to leave it unclear what Trey did to show the character's deep inner struggle. It was a choice that made the ending much more powerful and haunting. The film's realness also created problems off-screen. The gangs in the movie were based on real Los Angeles gangs. Doughboy's crew was patterned after the Rollin 60s Crips, while their rivals who killed Ricky were based on the Bloods. The real-life Crenshaw Mafia Bloods were reportedly unhappy with what they saw as a cowardly depiction of their gang in the film. This tension was always present during filming. The biggest conflict exploded when the movie opened in theaters in July 1991. Violence broke out at screenings across the country. Fights and drive-by shootings at theaters in California, Illinois, and other states left at least 3 people dead and around 35 wounded. The media created a firestorm, blaming the movie for glorifying the violence it was trying to condemn. This happened even though the film's final message on screen was to increase the peace. Singleton fought back hard. He told reporters that he did not create the conditions where people shoot each other, and that this happens because a whole generation of people feel they have no future. He said that pulling the film from theaters, which some were demanding, would be an act of artistic racism. Beyond these public battles, Singleton filled his movie with hidden details and secret meanings that many fans never noticed. These secrets show just how deep his vision was. One of the most powerful and forward-thinking moments is when Furious Styles gives an impromptu speech about gentrification. He walks Trey and Ricky through a changing neighborhood and explains how outside forces try to destroy black communities. He says they put a liquor store and a gun store on every corner because they want us to kill ourselves. He explains how they buy up all the property, let it get run down to lower the value, then buy it for cheap, move the black people out, and move white people in to raise the property value. This speech was given years before gentrification was a common word, and it is now seen as one of the smartest and most important parts of the film. Singleton also paid tribute to another classic coming-of-age movie, Rob Reiner's 1986 film, Stand By Me. The scene where the young boys walk down a set of railroad tracks on their way to see a dead body is a direct reference to that film. But Singleton added a dark and brutal twist. In Stand By Me, seeing a dead body is a huge, shocking event for the white suburban kids that marks the end of their innocence. In Boyz and the Hood, it is just a casual stop during their day, showing how normal death and violence had become in their world. The producer, Steve Nicolaides, who had worked with Reiner before, later revealed a secret tribute that even Reiner himself never noticed. The final shot of Doughboy fading out as he walks away was an homage to a similar shot at the end of Stand By Me. There was even an inside joke about the real-life drama in the rap world. Singleton originally wanted to cast all the members of NWA in the movie, but by then, Ice Cube was in a huge public fight with his former bandmate, Eazy-E. On the first day of shooting a barbecue scene, Singleton had an actor walk through the party wearing a t-shirt that said, "We want Easy." He then told Ice Cube's on-screen friends to beat him up. It was a nod to the real-life feud, a piece of hip-hop history hidden in the movie. Perhaps the most chilling hidden layer was completely unintentional. A key scene where the young boys find a dead body was filmed just 1 mile from the corner of Florence and Normandy Avenues. Less than a year after the movie was released, that exact corner became the infamous starting point for the 1992 Los Angeles riots, after the police officers who brutally beat a black man named Rodney King were found not guilty. The movie was not just showing the tension in a community, it was filmed on the very ground where that tension would soon explode for the whole world to see. Boyz and the Hood was more than a movie. For John Singleton, it was a mission to show the humanity behind the headlines and to tell the stories of his people with truth and heart. For its cast, it was the start of careers that would define a generation of black cinema. But for some, the line between the story and the street was erased forever. The film's final haunting words belong to Doughboy, spoken just before he walks away to his own tragic fate. He says either they do not know, do not show, or do not care about what is going on in the hood. Thanks to John Singleton and the unforgettable cast of Boyz in the Hood, the world could no longer say it did not know.